Hello, welcome on back. It's Betting Weekly WTA. I'm Nigel Seeley, looking ahead to what is a very, very big week of tennis action with a real great tournament, brilliant lineup at the WTA 1000 in Cincinnati. As per usual, I'm joined by our WTA handicapper, Rory Jiwani, who has been cashing tickets over in Paris like confetti. What about that? What a nice win. A lot of handball, the handball champions. We called it, didn't we?
No, volleyball. Volleyball it was.
Volleyball. That was handball.
Yeah. French men's team. Yeah, they came back from the dead. I think it was in the quarterfinals. They were trying to remember who they were playing, but they were in all sorts of trouble, and they came back, and then they won the semi pretty comfortably, and they did the same in the final. And it was just, as I thought, home advantage really helped them. You know, when they were down in that quarterfinal, they just managed to pull it out. They get backing and they just rode that wave to win it. And I think the other tip I gave, Marco Arop in the 800 meters, which I said was double figures, he got beaten by 100. One winner and one very near miss on the Olympic tips. But yeah, it was great fun. Yeah, a bit sad it's over, but it's been hard work last, well, how long have I been here? Nearly 3 weeks I've been in Paris. So no, it's been very enjoyable, but I'll be quite glad to get home, to be honest.
Yeah, Rory travelling back. He's in his hotel. It's his last day. If there's internet little problems there, you froze a couple of times there, Rory. But it's been a bit of a bad beat and a great tip with the volleyball with the French. Not so good on the tennis, obviously, last week. It's been a strange couple of weeks with tennis. One thing we did say, Sabalenka, you got to fade her at the odds. Didn't perform again. Aryna Sabalenka got through to the final, coming out of nowhere. And the final isn't even happened yet, obviously, because of the rain delays. Had the problems over in Canada and the tournament for the men's side. But obviously in Toronto, we've got the final this evening between Jess Pegula and Anisimova in an All-American clash. Showing Anisimova, I tell you something, our head honcho, the main man at Bet Rivers, Terry Dugan, he messaged me a few weeks ago at a tournament. I can't remember where he was now. It was a tournament stateside I was watching, and he said Anisimova is looking really, really good. And I was just going to mention it to you, and I was going to actually better this week. I didn't do it, and I'm kicking myself because we had the heads up that she was playing well, and she's in the final. And she looks like got a chance, I think, against Pegula this evening.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's been a mad old week. You've had Sabalenka go out early, Gauff went out early. Yeah, and Anisimova in the final. I mean, who would have predicted that? And I think it was, we had one at plus 350, second favorite was plus 400, Sabalenka and Gauff, and then it was $16 bar those. So it's yeah, a mad old tournament. Pegula back to form. Reigning champion. She hasn't had the hardest of routes through, although she did put out Deanna Schneider in the semi. Schneider knocked out Gauff pretty comprehensively. And Pegula was in the second quarter where Keys was. Did look the weakest on paper. But yeah, the world number, world number 6 now, Pegula. She's found her stride again. It wasn't the strongest 1,000 because obviously we had players taking a rest after the Olympics. No Swiatek, no Paolini, no Rybakina because of injury. But Pegula, she is quite consistent. She does usually beat the players you expect to beat. She's done it again this week.
Yep, the finals later on this evening, 6 p.m. Eastern time. I'm not sure whether this video will be dropped by then, but if it does, Pegula's minus 220, Anisimova is plus 175, the spread 3.5, and the total 21.5. Is any? I think Anisimova's got a chance here at plus 175.
Yeah, I mean she's been playing really well. I wouldn't go off at that price. Yeah, I don't know what the odds would be for 3 sets. Be around the sort of plus 140, plus 150 mark, but that might be worth a dabble as well, just because Anisimova's playing so well this week. And we've seen her play well before she reached the semis of the French Open in 2019, memory serves. She's obviously a talented player. She's had a few issues off the court. So she took a mental not so long ago, came back this year. The talent was always there. It's just a matter of her putting it together, and she's certainly done that this week.
Yeah, plus 150 for over 2.5 sets. Probably not the price you want, but head across the BetRivers
Yeah,
website. There's about 46 different
it's not
markets
bad.
available
Not
on
bad.
that final. And, the countdown now to the US Open continues, and it goes straight into another big tournament. And this has a feel to it of a big tournament. They're all here. All the big players are here. They want to get some match practice. They want to get some winning under their belts for heading to the US Open. It's the WTA 1000 in Cincinnati. And before we break down the draw and before we break down the odds, it's going to be fast here. It's going to be quick. One of the quickest hard courts of the season. What else have you looked at in the statistics analysis of the court speeds and the weather conditions for the next week over in Cincinnati?
Cincinnati's not one of the quickest. It played slowly last year, and I think it used to play a bit quicker than it did last year. But I think they slowed it down to give Coco Gauff a bit more of a chance, and it worked because she won it. But yeah, it's another 1000. All the big names are here. Swiatek, Rybakina are back. Paulini's back. No Krejcikova. Barbara Krejcikova, the Wimbledon champion, she's not there. Madison Keys is out injured, as is Danielle Collins, who's got an abdominal injury, unfortunately. I mean, she hopes to be back for Monterrey before the US Open, but she's missing Cincinnati. But all the big names are there. The top 8 seeds have all got to buy through to the second round. And the draw is kind of interesting. We'll go through that later, but Cincinnati, you go back through the sort of previous winners, and you've got, defending is Gauff. She beat, can't remember who she beat now. She beat Karolina Muchova in the final last year. Gauff beat Swiatek for the first time, and Muchova got the better of Sabalenka. Caroline Garcia beat Petra Kvitova in the 2022 final. In 2021, Swiatek won it. She beat Jill Teichmann in the final. 2020, Victoria Azarenka had a walkover against Naomi Osaka. And then in the USA Open final, which Osaka won. 2019, Madison Keys beat Svetlana Kuznetsova, blast from the past. That was 2019. And 2018, Kiki Bertens beat Simona Halep. So it's largely gone to players who prefer conditions slightly slower, as I say. And last year it was a bit slower than normal to help Coco Gauff. I think what's interesting about sort of the current top players, Rybakina and Sabalenka, neither have reached the final before. So that gives you a bit of an indication in terms of speed. Conditions-wise, pretty hot this time of year in Ohio. Temperatures high 20s, low 30s Celsius, so that's mid 80s Fahrenheit. Saturday's forecast is for heavy rain though, but otherwise looks all right for the week.
Let's have a look at that draw. As Rory said, the top 8 seeds are through to the round of 32. And if it goes to the way of seedings, this is how it's going to be at the quarterfinal stage. Iga Swiatek, the number 1 seed, she'll be playing number 5 seed, Yasmin Paolini. Sabalenka, the number 3 seed, will meet Ostapenko, the number 8 seed. That's the top half of the draw. The bottom half of the draw, we'll see Jess Pegler, the number 6 seed, meet Rybakina, making a comeback here. Zheng, the Olympic champion, who beat Shock Swiatek at Roland Garros. She's the number 7 seed, and she will face Coco Gauff, the number 2 seed. Looking at those seedings, there's no real advantage in the top half or the bottom half, but there's a lot of tennis. No quick turnover for Jess Pegler here. A tournament in tonight in Canada, flying across here to Cincinnati, probably playing again on Wednesday. Very small turnover, and obviously for Kenwy Zheng, she's obviously got to go from the transition from the clay to here. I know she had a week off, but a clay here straight into Cincinnati to a big event. So that's not going to be ideal for those players.
No, I mean, well, I thought Pegula would be at a disadvantage this week because she was coming straight from the clay, but she's done pretty well. Yeah, I think this week looks really tough. In terms of the draw, I think the bottom half looks weaker, especially when you look at, Gauff being the 2 seed, not in form particularly. I think the top quarter looks tough. I think Swiatek's draw looks tough. You've got, first up would be either Ajla Tomljanovic or a qualifier. And then after that, probably Linda Noskova or Marta Kostyuk, both of whom you could see giving her problems. and then it's either Paolini, Emma Navarro, or Mira Andreeva in the quarterfinals, and then most likely Sabalenka or Ostapenko in the semis. We keep mentioning this 4-0 record that Ostapenko's got, and they keep looking like they're going to meet each other, but Ostapenko never seems to get far enough. But it might happen one day. But I'd say that's a tough draw for her. It's difficult. It's probably the most difficult of the two in the tournament. I mean, she is the favourite. She has won here before, but you know, I suppose the question is, can she bounce back from that disappointment at Roland Garros? She was expected to win, hot favourite, got beaten by Qin Wenjung. You know, can she bounce back here?
Well, the odds for her to bounce back, she's the plus 260 favourite. Now, when you talk about Iga Swiatek, it is a price that maybe entice some bettors because, you know, we're used to this Swiatek being plus 110, plus 150 for these kind of tournaments, even minus money if it's on the clay event. So plus 260 may be a price that Swiatek fans may want to get involved in. Sabalenka is the second favourite at $4. We've said to her, she only won one tournament this year. We've talked about her at these low prices. She just doesn't win these tournaments. She gets the semi-finals, quarterfinals, but she doesn't win them. $4. Coco Gauff is plus 550 to retain her crown in Cincinnati. Rybakina is $7 to win on her return back to tour. Pegula is 10-1. She could be coming in here as the champion over in Toronto, which must be very hard. I don't know how many people would have done the back-to-back Toronto and Cincinnati, or Canada and Cincinnati. I think it would be very few. Zheng is 14, Paolini 20, Mukova 25, Navarro 25, Donna Vekic is 33, Svitolina 40, Schneider is playing some very good tennis at the moment, the Russian, she's 40-1, Samsonova at 40-1, Paula Badosa, she's won a tournament in Washington recently, 40-1, Ostapenko a massive 50-1, Andreeva 50-1, then Kostyuk and Andreescu also at 66-1, it's 80-1 barring those players there. And there's some big names there in the hundreds as well, you know, some decent players here. It is a tournament that you wouldn't say is being dominated by the big players. As you said, Swiatek and Sabalenka have got a pretty poor record here in this tournament. Rybakina's got a poor record here as well. Where, you know, I'm not quite sure whether the women's tennis world is at a stage where the top four are so dominant at the moment. There seems to be a lot of shocks happening in men's and women's tournaments because I think a lot of these players aren't fit.
Yeah, you've got a lot of uncertainty about a lot of these players. If we look at the quarters in turn, I mean, we've looked at the first quarter with Swiatek. Second quarter, Sabalenka, Ostapenko, the two seeds with buys. Victoria Azarenka would be interesting, but she retired injured last week in Toronto. Elena Svitolina could be interesting. Third quarter, Pegula and Rybakina are the two seeds with buys. Schneider's in there, as you say, in great form at the moment. She's got 3 tournament wins this year. Donna Vekic, Wimbledon semi-finalist and Olympic silver medalist. Vekic, you know, she's in that quarter, as is Leylah Fernandez. Fourth quarter, Gauff and Zheng are the two seeds. Qin Wenjung, Ongeber's in there as well, and then you've got Badosa, and she beat Bauskova in the final in Washington. So you know it looks really tough. I mean, conditions-wise, should be near perfect for Swiatek and Gauff, but both have questions to answer for me. Sabalenka can't be backed with any confidence at the moment. I think the strategy here is to look in the bottom half and look for a couple at big prices and hope we get a run for our money.
So that's the strategy. We're heading in the bottom half, looking for big prices. And where is the value on those big prices?
I like the bottom quarter. As I say, Gauff isn't in the best of form. Qin Wenjung, I still think she's a player worth opposing. She was fantastic at Roland Garros, but I'm not sure she can produce that. She had quite an easy run to the Australian Open final. Still a player I want to oppose. I mean, Gauff could bounce back. She won it last year, but I quite like the look of Badosa in that quarter. She won Washington, although the draw fell apart a bit. And last week she went down in 3 sets to Ostapenko, who we know won her day. But Badosa, she's got Peyton Stearns first up, and then either Katerina Siniakova or Anna Kalinskaya, who was injured last week. and then it's probably Jabeur or Zheng. That's not the worst draw in the world. If Badossa's in form, you could see her getting through that. And at $40, I think she's worth a small play, half a point. And the third quarter, Pegula's playing today in the final. It'll be very hard to back that up here. Rybakina's a constant injury doubt. You could have a few darts in this quarter. I'm just going to go for Schneider just because she's in fantastic form at the moment. She's won 3 tournaments. She's up to 23 in the world. Vekic in round 2 might be tough, but you could see this quarter falling apart. And Schneider playing 10 at the moment. So I've gone for Badosa and Schneider. Schneider's $40 as well. Half a point each way on both.
Yeah, Schneider's playing very, very well. I like her to go quite deep at the US Open as well at a very big price. Obviously, the US Open is only 2 weeks away now. To have you covered here on Betting Weekly WTA, you might want to take a big price on her to win that. If she wins here as well, 4 tournaments, she's pretty underrated in the market, and she's arguably right up there with the form players in the world. Both of them start off tomorrow, both in action tomorrow for the first day in Cincinnati, and both of them are very heavy favourites with Bet Rivers to win and progress through to around the last 32. So the action starts tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. Rory, that's going to go for 2 in that bottom half. Badosa at 40-1, and Schneider she's also at 40-1, yeah?
Yeah, I think both of them have both are in form. That's it's one thing we do know about them. Schneider delivered a bit of a beating to Gauff last week, and Schneider could be interesting for the US Open as well. I'm not sure there's anyone apart from Swiatek who's won 3 tournaments this year. Schneider and Swiatek, I think they're clear of the rest in terms of tournaments won. Collins has won a couple. I think Rybakina has won a couple. She might have won 3. It's 2 or 3. But Schneider's been in great form of late, and beating Gauff, that's the world number 2. That's a massive confidence boost for her. So I think Schneider's right up there. You can't talk about Aryna, given what she's done this year. Navarro's in good form, and that's why I think this top half's dangerous and difficult, because you've got Navarro, you've got Paolini, you've got Sabalenka who could come back to form. So I think the top half's very difficult. So that's why I'm looking at the bottom, and we just have a couple of big price darts and hope one of them cashes, and at least one of them gives us a run for our money.
Yeah, I think Sabalenka at 3s and all these kind of prices in these conditions is not any way to play. I think Gauff as well. I think the pressure on her after the Olympics, I think that's going to get to her. The young black girl, I think she's going to have to get herself ready for the main focus is the US Open now. So I don't think she needs to get some match on the belt. Swiatek, I think, to go from the disappointment at the Olympics here. So I agree with the strategy to take on those top players. Pegula, obviously, very, very hard to win back-to-back tournaments, especially 1,000 events. It's virtually impossible to do that. So I think there's major question marks about the top 4 in the betting, which frees up a lot of people. And Badosa is someone who's playing the best tennis for the last 3 years, 2 or 3 years. And obviously Schneider, a young player, definitely moving way into the top 20 in the world and probably potentially even higher. So good time to catch those prices. And what we've seen last week, Anisimova in the women's draw, Popperin. He must have been 500-1 in the final of the men's as well. So these favourites aren't cashing at the moment on the women's and the men's circuit. So it's a good time for tennis betting. It's a good time to take Rory strategy. Unfortunately, we lost a couple of points last week, but we're still over 6 units up on the year. So we're still in profit here on the WTA, and hopefully we'll add that and continue that trend going into the US Open, which does start in 2 weeks from now. Any early thoughts on the US Open, Rory? Anyone you thought yourself, I know you've mentioned Danielle Collins at 50s a few weeks back, but obviously the injury doubt now for her as well. Not ideal, but is anyone you're looking at now thinking, well, potentially she could be one for the US Open?
So I lost you there for a moment, Nigel. Can you just repeat?
I'm just saying about the US Open. Obviously, we've spoken about Danielle Collins as a potential winner at a big price a few months ago. I just wondered if there's anybody now in the last few weeks who's caught your eye potentially at a big price that you might want to look on for the US Open early.
Not at the moment. I think this tournament will give a good pointer to the US Open. Someone like perhaps Paolini, if she can get a couple of wins here, 2 or 3 wins here, might be someone who of interest. Navarro's another one who could be of interest. Yeah, of course. I did mention Collins a while back, and her injury is a bit of a worry. And Badosa as well. If Badosa can go deep here, she's someone, conditions at the US Open will suit her game. She's someone who could have a run. So, yeah, there's a lot of live possibilities for the US Open, I think. And I think Cincinnati will give us plenty of clues.
Yep, we'll have you covered here, Betting Weekly, WTA, and also Betting Weekly game bet match for the men's of the US Open Championship, which starts in 2 weeks from now. There's also some brilliant content this week, brilliant sport and action this week. The start of the English Premier League is on Friday, and myself, Jack Wright, and Dan Roebuck will be back each Thursday now on Betting Weekly Premier League. Also, the leagues start around Europe in Spain, in Italy, in France and Germany, and the boys Steve Wiss and James Easton will have you covered on Betting Weekly Extra Time every Thursday. We now have a new show as well, Betting Weekly Live, each day at 11 o'clock, Monday to Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. We'll give you the best bets on the day's action, sporting action, look at where the money's being bet and the early flurries in the trading room at Bet Rivers, and point you in the right direction for that day's action. And also, we have a new show with myself and Neil Channing, Sensei Channing, the Betting Weekly Dojo, where we're looking at all the big talking points in the world of sports betting. We've just recorded one this morning with Neil, and it's quite an interesting watch about his Olympics betting adventure, and looking ahead at what it's going to be a very interesting few months across stateside in the world of political betting, which is, I know, something that Rory likes to talk about, and Neil as well. For me, I like to keep my opinions very much to myself on that kind of stuff. Okay, that's been it, Rory. I know you've got a flight to catch, so I appreciate your time. I know it's boiling hot in London here. It's absolutely boiling. I know it's equally hot in your hotel room there in Paris. Make sure you download this podcast. Follow myself and Rory and all the Because We Win team on our page on social at Because We Win on Instagram and on Twitter. Download this podcast, as I said, on your preferred podcast provider, Betting Weekly WTA, and keep subscribing to Betting Weekly Studios. The content is coming, lots some more fresh content throughout the next week and throughout the months ahead. If you want to bet on tennis and on soccer, this is the best place to be. The #1 betting channel on tennis and betting. Rory, thank you very much for your time. Safe travels, my friend.
Thanks, mate. Catch up with you soon.
And take care. All the very best. Enjoy your week and speak to you later.